assume we can't increase the number of machines, and just stay within our limit.
Which location are you looking at, Paul?
The Ohio Township Community Center.
So you're wanting to increase?
Well, the proportions to me is, Dr. Marty House, emotional person. Right, so if we take 157 votes in that primary, and we assume it's in the same proportion in the general, we got 157 to 1056. So give or take, it's about 8 to 1 versus we have machines 6 to 4, but that doesn't. So we 8 to 2 pushes us where the volume is, has more machines available, and we're being shorter wait times for the community at large. And so my suggestion would be 8 to 2, but I'm looking for input because I'm one person advocating this. I find the here is the reason why that would be happening.
Are you talking 8 machines and 2 full?
Yes. So forget I ever talked about bulk.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I think I started with bulk as I meant to start on machines.
Okay.
But number of machines, 8 and 2 would be my thought, would make more sense to the folks at 1056 and 157. So basically, it would be 130 primary votes per machine, Newburgh, and it would be 80 per machine at Linville from, so we still have actually more machines per person at Linville, but we have more capability and more volume elsewhere. And that was my suggestion.
I'm sorry.
Well, you're the expert. You're the experienced one.
Kim and I, we did a lot of research, we worked really hard on this, and that's why we did the 6 machines there. And we were wanting to increase Linville by what?
Okay.
No, decreasing.
Alright.
Decrease.
Alright.
Linville.
So we have 10 total right now in the proposal. 6 in Newburgh, 4 in Linville. My suggestion would be that I mean 6 and 4, it would be 8 and 2. So we still have 10, but we just have that much more.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. This is just for
Correct.
early.
Further.
So yeah, 6 and 8 machines, correct?
2, 6, and 8, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
2 in Linville, 6 in the election office, 8 in Newburgh.
Okay. Got that. Full time,
So,
remaining same.
Keep it.
All right.
I think you can, full pads are not the issue. Machines are more.
Living room.
So are you, that sound better to you?
yes.
So I propose that I motion that we have the new numbers of 6 in the election office, 8 in Newburgh, and 2 in Linville.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries, I'll vote 3 to nothing. 6, 8, and 2.
Oh, can I just, I'm gonna jump back. I had approval of minutes, was not approved the minutes for May 17th meeting. Apologize.
Since you're the one who's here, why don't you make that motion?
I'll make the motion, I'm sure.
Second.
Yeah. Motion approved the minutes of May 17th meeting.
I'm those here having trouble hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I made a motion to approve the May 17th minutes, and the motion was approved.
Yes.
Thank you. That was the motion.
I am. Did she approve that one? Okay, okay.
Number of machines for the election, 20 days and time. Number of workers at early voting locations along with dates and times of each early voting location. That's the 70 part of
You see where I have a primary total workers. We have 4 at the election office, 6 at Ohio Township, and 4 in Linville.
Yes. Yeah. More support. I understand. I don't really have concern on that. That sounds appropriate, really most of Ohio Township. Nancy? Four, 6, and 4. Not much with the machine, but it's taking time.
So they have 8 machines, 6 people. 2 to be total, that's done the pad. Which are clerks. Yeah, okay. Yes. And then 4 others. I think the 2 of them.
I motion we approve. 4, 6, 4 in Boonville, 6 in Newburgh, 4 in Linville. Second by Nancy. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Vote carries 3-0. And now we're on item number 6, election day number of machines and workers.
If I can also draw your attention to the total votes that we had on primary, for the primary election day for each location.
So Living Word Christian Church had 1,000 votes, and they have the most machines at 10. That makes sense. Second, we have Boonville Library, which has 693 votes, and they have 8 machines. Makes sense. It's a significant drop off to third. Third is, looks like 646 at the New Britain American Legion, and they have 5. Oh, I got Boonville Library on there.
Ohio Township is running red line, or Boonville.
Oh, there it is, Ohio Township Road, I think. That is back to third, and that has 10, 12. Really, that's number 2. And then doing the library included. And then we're doing American Legion. And then Chandler Community Center is 6. Neighbor American Legion is Abundant Church is online. 6. Hospital 5. Also 16. So everything looks reasonable from a volume perspective.
I can bring your attention, we have increased the number of machines at our larger locations. So just to make sure that you're aware of
It's a good point, so you can see Bloomfield Library went from 6 to 8.
that. Right.
Carlisle Township trustee went from 8 to 10. Fun electric went from 5 to 6. Newport Healthcare went from 5 to 6 as well. Thank you for putting this together. Let's get this schedule.
Because I'm looking at it right now.
One question. So Newport Healthcare, why did its number of machines in the primary go up to the general when it only had 150 votes?
Who was that? Debbie Kemper? Right. And it's, it was the inspector actually, that makes sense.
Looking for the inspector to travel the safety checks, and that she had suggested that they travel on motion.
It's just great. You literally are third lowest location, are to go on machine somewhere that would not have been where I would have picked. But obviously I wasn't there all day during the primary, so I don't.
The area they have, I think is small, but I talked to the director and she said they could accommodate, obviously, when you're in the same location, they could accommodate.
The only bad thing about that is I have to pick up her notes.
That's a good thing. It's
Well,
not
you
me.
did then.
I did then, I won't get,
She had to tweet somewhere. Very good. So,
oh, I'm sorry. I forgot.
she had it.
So the only one that I would challenge is that one, and I would probably put it at the Uber American Legion instead.
That was the Tennessee. And we had 4 machines back then.
Yeah.
Did you work in the 2020? So are you saying that take your healthcare down like that?
Oh, no, I was saying, the new machines elsewhere. We're just gonna keep the low down ones. It's better than. I think, Nikki, what was recommended by our vendor, because if a machine goes down, they can program here on site, if you need extra. But if one would go down, you would have it physically, there to operate. So that is their recommendation too, so that's why we go with that. It would make sense maybe that some of them maybe don't have 2 machines, but not one piece of that, because of that. Yes.
We have our deadlines on election day. Did you know that?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, just looking for American Legion, primary votes, if you use that as a proxy, they had 646 votes in the primary. They're gonna have 5 machines, which is what's been offered right now. They're at 123 votes per machine. Compare that to Uber Healthcare, which is asked to have 6 in the primary, which would be literally 155 at 6. So it would be, 31, 25 per machine. So, and I got 123 and 125. I would say that minimum, I would probably move one from Weaver Health to Weaver Region.
So you're saying increase the Legion to 6?
And bring the health, Weaver Healthcare down to 5. Wait, something else to say that
Thank
makes
you.
sense. I'm like, I'm dictating the first meeting. I wait for my second meeting. All right, and we want to use even more?
Weaver correctly.
Still, at 6, it's still 100 votes per machine.
I wouldn't do more than the 6.
It's 6. All right. So then I move, we approve as adjusted, so just the sheet provided by Ms. Perry, along with updating Weaver Healthcare down to 5 and Weaver American Legion up to 6.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion made by Paul. Second by Patty. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion approved, 3-0.
And the workforce.
So the workers on the sheet says 5 at every single 5 at every location, with the exception of Toledo Library and Community Center, those two having 7, Abundant Life having 7, and then Living Word Christian Church and the House Township Trustee's Office having 9.
And you'll see, let me make a note too, that we've increased those from the primary to the general. If you look at the column from the primary.
The primary, all of them pretty much have 5, with the exception of Living Word Christian Church and the House Township are going up to 7 and 9. Second. By Nancy, second by Paul. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
3-0. Additional business?
I thought we were just
Election day.
So if you look, we've increased Chandler Community Center to 4 from 2. Living, no, not living.
That's really not the same.
Yeah, that's the only change that we made. And once again, let me make a notation of what the total votes that we have for the primary.
So a question on poll bags. Chandler Community Center had 470 election day or primary election day votes, and we're having it going from 2 to 4. Meanwhile, Newburgh American Legion, bringing them up, they were at 2 and they're staying at 2. Is there a reason why we bumped it at Chandler and not, let's say, the Newburgh American Legion?
We could bump it up to 2 more.
Bump both of them up or just?
No, just
Or
go
just
with
switch.
the American Legion.
So you're saying Chandler would still be at 2 and American Legion would be at 4?
No, Chandler would be at 4.
Okay, so both would go up
American
to 2.
Legion.
Gotcha. can do that.
I'll second.
Motion made by Nancy, second by Patty. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Do you guys hear me in the back, okay? Easy call, not quiet. Additional business?
If I could just bring up the public tests are going to take place. I know we discussed this earlier, but I wanted to stress it. On September 30th at 11 a.m. And that'll take place here in the election office. We will have our vendor on site that will be conducting that test. That's the only thing I have. No, that's only on this one.
How is that?
Training points.
On the subject.
Right.
Okay, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Do we have public comment? If anyone from the public would like to speak to the election board, let us know.
Patty, when are the dates published for early voting? When are they go out?
That's it. I have to wait for
So is there a typo in there? Because it says that election at the election office for October 14th to the 18th. 14th is Columbus Day, so we'll be closed as a federal holiday. You're not closed? You don't recognize that as a federal holiday?
Well, on, non-election days, I believe, but we don't.
Okay, that's, I just saw that, I just,
And before we get additional comment, I want to ask, actually, just ask a question. We talked about, I was on the subject in my last one. We talked about publicizing the open hours on the website and Google Standard. Is there a reason why we can't simply put on some type of, grocery store message boards or something along those lines, just to let people know what we do?
Yeah.
Okay,
The flyer.
so we do a flyer.
Yes. We have a flyer that has the dates and times for the early voting. And we also have a flyer for election day where the votes in the flyer. So I'll give, I need big stacks to you and you will,
I'm good.
post them.
I'll be going,
I'm trying to get them everywhere. I really try.
We should also put this flyer on the website, just as some other people can put it off, right? So if someone in this room wants to print it off and put it on their local Schnucks or Kroger or what have you. They're more than welcome.
Or what they did was just have them, your windows and stuff. So you can have to know how to.
Especially really for the local ones in Linville and Weaver, to visit, drum up traffic in the area, which drums up people going to the stores.
We also have one, that has the location as well.
The votes.
We also collect the, early voting, the vote here signs, for early voting will go up. Usually, it's gonna start on a Tuesday, so we put it up like on Friday prior, maybe the week before, to let them know that that's the location and it started. And we'll do that as well.
And we have big banners.
And will the clerk's office put it on Facebook, I assume, as well, social media?
Yeah, we put it on our election website, the Warrick County.
What about Facebook and that kind of stuff? We have a Facebook page, right? Doesn't the clerk's office have a Facebook page?
We know, and we, I know, we don't, they apparently are our IT individuals cannot have access to our website. It has to be sourced out to a vendor.
Okay.
So I'm,
So, yeah, I take one and I go around and just stuff on my.
absolutely, absolutely,
Just gonna be official Warrick County for
right.
whatever.
And I wouldn't, I'll put it on my personal. And we posted all throughout the judicial center, across the street. I tried to get the city to put it on their flashing billboard. You could do that. I don't even know if it could really fit on there, but yeah. If you have any ideas where you'd like me to put them out, suggestions, I'm doing library.
Like north of We're here right now. They always go up that way.
I do Tennyson.
Okay.
Other, public comment?
Yes, I think you're comparing apples to oranges. This is, you're staffing up for as a primary. In the 2020 general, at the First Christian Church, we had 10 people and 9 machines. At Epworth, we had 16 people and 11 machines, and those people are probably going to funnel to the Ohio Township Community Center. Let's see, we're not doing. Oh, and they had a total of 5,084 votes in the primary. But I'm looking at general. Here's the general. They had 20,304 votes.
I'm sorry, Connie, are you speaking of the 2020 election?
2020 general, and that's what we're having this year is a general election, and I think it's going to be bigger than 16 or 20. Okay, let me see. Living Word had 14 machines and 11 people. Just a second, I lost it in there. And these were different precincts. The precincts have kind of changed around. Did we have Boonville High School this year?
No.
Oh, okay. Boonville Courthouse, that's here. Oh, no, so it would be here. And the Judicial Center, I don't think it's listed in 17 locations that I saw. It's not a vote center on election day. Okay, that's good for me. Okay, but you're trying to staff like this is a primary. This is, Greg here has, totals for, now this, oh wait, this is a primary, I don't want to look at you. I want to look at the general election, it's 20,304 in 2022. But you're staffing like this is a primary. This isn't a primary, this is a general election. And we had, at First Christian, they had 16 people, I believe. 16 people, I think, and 11 machines is what I said. Well, I don't have my mouse there. So folks, and they were wrapped around the building.
One question I have is on our total number.
It's hard to compare back to 2020 because in 2020 you had the pandemic. And there's a lot of people who wanted to vote early and avoid the crowds on election day. There's also a much larger number of vote by mail absentee votes.
And there were 24 precincts.
And there were 24, voting locations.
Yeah, 24 voting locations. No, I think they need to decide, but I think they need to decide something that's sensible.
And we're about Ohio Township primary. They had like 7 workers. And I know you guys are swamping.
What is the cost of machines on that?
understand our programs.
So let's say we said, you know what,
Well,
that the concern that was raised is correct. Let's just, I'm not saying that we want to, I want to understand though, what's, if we would add 10 machines to the machines that we've already talked about here for election day, is that $1,000, $10,000, $100,000? What's the,
what is it per machine?
She just said that.
1,300 per machine?
If you look at into this, in the election links. Whatever's described today.
I think you really ought
And
to
also,
get together.
let me add that during that election, the costs, we went over and above what the budget was.
That was in the 2022 primary that you went way over budget. Off your election. It was not the primary, it was an off your election. And you staffed it like you were staffing a general election.
When is our next meeting?
We don't have a date yet.
Not a date yet. Or actually, it would be before.
Yes.
We're voting machines Thursday. Let's go sleep.
Can you share with us the budget for this election and where we're at right now? If you could, I'd like to get them in my office, but I'd be happy to know where we're at right now.
Is it too late to rethink your numbers now?
That's what we're wondering.
Thank you.
The challenge is that it'd be nice, in 2020, as stated, was a very unusual election in many, many ways. What I actually wouldn't mind doing is, and I realize the county has grown in the last 8 years, but for 2016, wouldn't mind seeing what we're proposing for 24 versus 16, knowing that it needs to, again, change. We're now at 4 centers versus in 2016. But just trying to understand what the total volume is.
All those numbers are available. It'll show what occurred in each location, as for early voting, for the precincts, or the voting centers on election day. All of those numbers should be available. I mean, I've got copies of them in our office. And since 2020 was the COVID, I don't remember how many voted on election day, but all of that needs to be looked into. Great, thanks, I'm good.
In terms of cost, I don't know how many poll pads we have, but the marginal cost of an additional poll pad in location is zero. There's no programming. As long as it's a poll pad we got sitting around here, and we have a lot, because we bought poll pads for a lot more locations than we have now. So, please don't worry about adding a poll pad to a location as an additional expense. We have had, I've had this happen. It's not common, but occasionally we do have a bad poll pad. So you at least have 2 per location, maybe 3.
We have 2 at every location, but they're already in the number.
The other thing about the panels, the actual voting machines themselves, the only marginal cost there is the programming cost. And I think it's on the order of about $15 per machine, but I'm pulling that out of my evil brain. I don't have it written down. I've been looking for my notes, but I don't have the cost for programming per panel. But it's not substantial.
But at First Christian, they were wrapped around the building to vote. In early voting.
Early voting in 2020, First Christian, yeah.
Wrapped around the building.
Yeah, they were standing.
It wasn't.
And remember, they were standing 6 feet apart because of the COVID. Yeah.
And this is, as far as the vote center goes, people can vote anywhere.
So the biggest expense, and the only one that has to be done in even numbers, are the poll workers.
excluding the inspector.
including the inspector on election day. But like just for early voting, I mean, the cost.
Well, there is no inspector on those, but
That's correct. There's no inspector on early voting, so you always have even number of workers. For election day, you always have an odd number of inspectors.
and the early voting,
So we can have an odd number of poll pads, we can have an odd number of panels, because that doesn't matter. They're interchangeable. They're not assigned by party, they're not assigned to us. So it's right, it have more workers to poll pads.
Did it take you a long time to gather just the tally location?
For 26.
Yeah.
Do it for 2016.
And do you have that, we can get that off the website. I'm sorry.
While that's being pulled up, is there additional commentary? Let's put a pause in that question for a moment.
She brought up a good point. I'm glad she did, because I was gonna comment. I'm glad you didn't take any away from Chandler, because I voted after work on presidential election, and they were really backing up then, so I was glad that you didn't take any away from Chandler community. So, and she's even added to that for the other areas for that day too.
I just have a comment. I worked my first primary this spring, and I was at the Boonville Library. We had a lot of people that by the time they finally found us, they said that if we weren't a location, they were just going to give up and not vote, because they kept trying to go to the high school and the middle school, which for a lot of people, them voting, they've always been able to go to those locations. So we ended up having to call and ask for somebody to specifically go and put the locations on the doors of locations where people were used to voting. So I think that that would be a very good idea of, like, if it's a location that's always been notorious, if we could just put on there that it's not a location, because you don't want a bunch of strangers trying to go to schools. Anyways,
Let me add, I'm the one that handled putting the signs, and when I went down for more, there were signs on those doors. I think what happened was maybe just speculation, maybe because they didn't see any cars. But I went down to make sure the signs had not blown off.
Sure.
Yeah, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that you were aware.
okay,
Hopefully,
With that.
all the primary people have learned their lesson.
right,
That being said, we still have the same issue with people that are voting for the first time in general,
yeah.
that we also want to make sure that there's signs and stuff.
Well, and a lot of people don't vote in those primaries, unfortunately.
But thank you.
Yes, yeah.
early voting, let's first
I mean, what you need their names.
early voting at Christian
Oh,
has 6
sorry.
people for early
I'm
voting.
sorry.
At First Christian, now First Christian is on the location now. But at First Christian, they had 6 for early voting. And I don't have that many poll pads as well.
Just a request from somebody who attends these meetings on a regular basis. You guys are watching from a document. It'd be great if you had copies of the documents handed out to us. Because you're talking, here's a list of machines, here's a list of workers, and we don't see those numbers.
Understood. It's one of the reasons I recited some of the numbers I did, is so that people knew.
I've been writing them down as frantically as I can. But I tried to get it all.
Understood.
The reason we weren't provided with that, Greg, was because it had not been finalized yet. This was just a draft. to present.
We probably, we can talk about different ways, possibly just putting it on a wall somewhere so people can take a look at it, rather than handing out. We don't know how many copies of this.
Right, I mean, this is a lot more than normally attended election board.
Understood.
Don Julian, I'll get my name out there. I was just wondering, I was listening to it, it was very thorough, very, very nice to go through that. But I was just wondering what the election board's thinking, that why would you not match the 2020 general or the 2016, not trying to adjust this primary or this primary? Why would you just not say, okay, 2016, we had this many machines, bam. Now, obviously, you brought to the point, there's more people live in Warrick County than there was 8 years ago. So even if you had the same machines, and I'm just wondering what the executive board, the election board, the thinking was trying to adjust them to fit a primary. So that was my comment.
So we're going to go back to that topic, but my understanding of what I've been hearing here today is that the switch from having precincts to having voting centers where people can go anywhere was, at least is expected to make it a little more efficient and a little faster. Question is how much, right? So if you drop the machines 10%, 30%, 60%, I don't claim to know any of that, but that's what I understood.
I think there'd be value in you all talking to the inspectors from the different locations. Okay, what was your experience? What did you need? What did you not need?
We do. We get input from all the inspectors.
You know, one of the biggest problems is the fact that people don't move it. They're still confused, and my bet is they're gonna be confused for 10 years. You know, just get an ingrained and you get in your car and it takes you where you used to go. People like, Tim Cron out of the body shop, he offered to have a sign in his front yard, out there by his business. We asked if he would do it on the reader board, and I think his wife almost had a corner. Very difficult, apparently, the program is so different. And so they didn't want to redo it, they said we would do a sign in the front. I guess my suggestion is throughout the county, might be worth our time to put the names of the locations, because they really should stay stable now. It took, how many years, Patty, to get to this point?
Forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
Okay,
But I
but
don't understand though what you're saying. You're wanting us to,
to tell them
because I'm
where
open
to
to
go,
this.
to tell them where to go. Somewhere, I don't care, where to vote, okay, where the voting centers are going to be.
And where are you wanting us to do that at?
Okay, so Tim Cron offered his lawn, it's not very big, but it's gonna hold some. I can't remember which election, I think it was the last one, must have been on the first. Somebody in Newburgh took it upon himself to make hand signs, and it was, they'd gone to all sorts of work, but you couldn't read it because it wasn't large enough. But his idea was a terrific one, okay? And he did it like we would, for sale signs, or whatever, you can just put them at corners. But anyway, again, for a couple of years, a couple of rounds, we need to tell people where to go. And they won't think of it till the day they get ready to go.
I hear what you're saying. We're going to move incrementally in that direction. One of the reasons why we had the conversation we did about putting it on the grocery store, putting it on social media, et cetera, you know, I'm certainly going to do everything I can. I would advise everyone in this room. If we think it's important, obviously you're in here because you believe it's important, that what we should all do is have that list of locations and make sure that everyone we know, right? And so we can only do so much, but you're right, there's going to be confusion.
But yard signs is actually a good idea. That we had not mentioned that before. I do not know what the cost of yard signs are.
But I see that being a problematic person, just because we have to decide who to get the lines, yard signs to, and then, well,
Don't
we have to know how many orders.
personal accountability, you should know when election begin, it's personal accountability. I mean, there's only
It's
so
50
much.
days before the election, and I feel like it's gonna be tough to get that idea out today. That being said, the signs, getting signs ordered, bought, distributed, out there.
I don't know the mechanics of doing that yet.
As someone that's been a candidate, there's more to time than that. I mean, the shipping alone takes long, so I pay for the cash. I'm not saying it's bad idea, next time it's
Yes, I have a question. How many polling places do we have this year for the general election,
17.
as compared, and how many did we have in 2020?
24.
And how many did we have in 2016?
More.
That was
A lot.
Yeah, we didn't have those precincts.
Now, the difference is this year, again, anyone can go to any location, right? So I can go to Pigeon Township, I can go to Elberfeld, I can go to Newburgh, I can go to the library. So hopefully it'll be a little more convenient for the voters.
Oh, I
The fact that,
understand that, I just, I think, and when we're planning this, we have to consider that there are a lot fewer places that people can vote. So those are going to be a little busier than they might have been 4 years ago.
Agreed.
You know, in other words, we just really need those workers. We need extra assistant clerks. Can you rethink it today?
We struggled with the 5 at the library this year.
We did get
And out of the
more,
primary.
right? I think we will.
7.
Increase by
Yeah,
six.
but I mean,
They voted to increase it by 2, so there would be 7 workers at the library for the general.
Did we get the number of machines? Are we still working on that?
That's the cost. Is that what you were wanting?
Cost and the number of yeah.
The total number of machines. You're saying.
So, yeah, cost will have 7 machines, how many machines we have.
No, I'm sorry, we had 7 for the library. They were previously at 9. So we have 2 more. So another, what do you have now?
That's just some that's what you don't get. And then this is the cost. So we're talking. Cheap, 80. I'll be glad that you don't run it on.
Correct, but each of the young, this is prior to 2022. This is how I did start my analysis. So.
So did you want to summarize? So, please ask your questions so I'll give you it. Okay.
So the question was, can we add and just say, rather than the exact number of machines, not to exceed, so we can bump it up a little bit? And I don't know the answer to that question.
I would, my suggestion is that we could leave it at this, that what we've already approved,
Mm-hmm.
then we can table
Table.
it, and come back for another meeting when we have those numbers.
And then they'd be able to reprogram additional machines. So they take the first 893, and then if we said 10 more, they program the additional time. That would be what
We'll be in the
So
we're okay.
tomorrow.
Next week.
Next
But
week.
the thing is, they can't program those machines on that today. With more needed than that, as they did in the primary, and then they weren't used the ones.
Would be more. Especially spoke with the inspector there, like, more machines than they want to do.
General,
just curious, how many voting machines and voting pads does Warrick County have total?
We're having 93 in the
No.
general right now, right? That's what I
I'm
saw.
sorry, that's true.
For machines.
For like the voting machines, you have 93?
You know, a lot.
We have 93 that are going to be sent out.
Right, you have 90, you're planning on using, you have many more in stock.
We actually have them in stock.
Yes.
Okay, that was my question, like how many we were using and how many we have.
198 in stock.
Did I understand we cannot program on election day, or we can? Okay, so I worked in another area of Indiana, and they had it where the Democrats and the Republicans, the guys they were on the move all during election day. I think Mike's got a good idea to kind of put not put a definite number, and then see how it works out. If all of a sudden, you are absolutely led west, and you see it's going to be a busy day, then you could send them out to explore up. But all of it is a crapshoot. And with that in mind, we don't want to be caught short. That, sometimes you have to spend money and you don't want to. And this is one of those cases.
And if they're shorthanded, working with events, if people say, I'm never doing that again because I was worked to death. I mean, some people had to not go to the bathroom during some of these periods because there was not enough people.
I've never heard that from anybody.
Did you tell me that?
Alarming.
Okay, it's people that I talked to said, I couldn't go to the bathroom. I had to wait to go to the bathroom because we were in the day.
What location were they at?
I mean, I don't remember.
I'm sorry.
I will keep track of that from now on.
Down.
I will keep track from now on, who says what. But, John,
I so appreciate our poll workers because they give up an entire day and then some
It's a long
for
line.
nothing.
the other thing is,
Yeah.
So it's not-
if there's not enough workers at 6 o'clock, whoever's in the chute can vote. It doesn't say that chute has to be single file. That chute can be 6 deep or 6 wide, and those people will get out of there, conceivably couldn't get out of there.
I know, I was at the board for the primary, and I know that we were not able to take lunch. We basically had to sort of parcel it out. You take 10 minutes, go grab a bite, and use the bathroom, and come back, and swap it off. We do that every month.
If they're in that 50-foot road, they get to vote. And other things about it, maybe 6 wide.
And I'm not.
You got another question?
Yeah, right, election board, we can get to that first.
But sometimes that's.
Yeah.
I mean, they're.
Don doing it again, and to follow up with that, Paul, and I appreciate all the work you three do on this, is, what I'm hearing is there a problem? And correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm a layperson, and it's okay, I'm a layperson. But is there, what is the problem of saying, guys, 2020, we had 181 machines, but, okay, how come we can't do that again in, now, you're saying there's a precinct, and there's a voting places, but if I'm not mistaken, in 2020, the presidential election, they was 80 million people voted or whatever. So it's not going to be any different than why we can't say 2020 we had 150 machines. Why can't we do that now? That's a question I'm asking, and then I'm going to shut up, maybe.
And unfortunately, I'm going to give you some of the same answer I gave the first time.
Okay,
Which is that part of it is the fact that this migration from, precincts to voting centers, it's not apples to apples, right? Instead of having 100 apples, we're having 60 oranges. And so we're trying to figure out how many oranges you need to replace an apple. And that's probably the best analogy I can use. And we're figuring out, that being said, we're
You don't have an
discussing, and part of the challenge, I'm just being honest.
I know, thank you.
This is my first meeting.
Thank you.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you.
And Nancy's first meeting.
Thank you.
So we're doing the best we can.
Thank you.
But that being said, so we are thinking that maybe we would agree to add, we'll just say 20 machines, which is a 23% increase in the total, 22% increase in the total number of machines. Let me finish talking to Don, and then I'll get to you.
Thank you.
And so we are recognizing that it's better to be safe than sorry. Now, the challenge is there's, in addition to the cost of machines, there's cost of people to run them, there's cost of personnel. And the challenge we had in 2020 is that we were way over budget. So we have a county council, so we have low taxes in Warrick County. That's definitely tourism. I'm originally from Chicago, and we speak to our low taxes. One of the ways to do is we try to find ways to be as financially responsible as possible. And so we're just trying to figure that out. That being said, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just telling you if there's the other part of it.
Okay.
She actually asked first.
All right.
Actually, you were up first, and then you put your hand down. Go ahead.
My problem is that I'm having a difficult time understanding why it's so far. You've got fixed costs on way more machines than we will ever use. And Greg telling us that the cost for a programmer machine is tiny. I don't see why you couldn't overestimate 50% and still have a very slight.
It was the labor top. So it's not the 55 bucks per machine. It's that you have to now have another person, and that person charges.
My experience is that's not the case.
Well, and that's
That the queue is the machines. Now, you're increasing the machines nominally, but it seems to me you could increase them exponentially at very low cost, and that problem goes away. We got them through the machine. We got them through the poll pad. We couldn't get it through the machines. But this time it could be a poll pad problem as well as a machine. So err 50% of it above at a very nominal cost. Quit worrying about whether you're quit fine tuning.
Well, that's the direction we're headed, right? So we're talking about adding machines without necessarily adding workers right now, and then seeing what happens.
I would have assumed the cost to program these machines was huge. The way you were laboriously concerned about it. The nominal cost, don't worry about it.
Trusting my Excel spreadsheet, and I can't believe the number of people. I have just Republicans in the precincts were 178, and there would have been Democrats on top of that, and the number of machines was 172. Now, that was precinct-based, but that's what we had. 20 with 20 general elections.
Was that when people were sitting around cooking those things?
Yeah, but that's what we
Was
had.
that the year that? Oh, okay.
No, that was the primary, you're talking the primary, when they staffed up the primary. No, 2022 primary. Crunch the data.
And I believe we have one less voting center than we did at the last general. But the only way we're going in, instead of 18, there's 17 now. We need a minimum number of workers,
So,
as we did in 2020.
so I'm gonna move that I'm gonna make two motions. The first motion is going to be that we have, I'm gonna say 25 machines. Second motion is going to be that we create something for the next meeting's agenda to discuss the poll worker to machine ratio.
So total work.
Yeah. So we've already voted on poll workers. We're not going to change that today, my thought. We'll just simply add a machine. We already talked to you before, after the adjournment, or not after, before the public comment, we heard it's really more about having people at machines, right? So, and just from my anecdotal experience, I can say it usually takes me a minute and a half with a poll worker and probably 7 minutes at the machine. And so there's definitely that ratio of 4 to 1, 5 to 1, something like that. So we adding more machines certainly reduce that backlog, and then we can worry about the poll workers, which is more expensive. So.
But the longer you wait for the poll workers, they're trying to get poll workers now, and.
We're not gonna sit on it. We're gonna get moving now. But we have to figure that out first. I think it deserves its own conversation. We've already kept people longer than I think this meeting was usually scheduled. So my motion would be we add 25 machines. So we go from 93 to 118, which is actually bigger now. So I think that's give or take a 28% increase in the number of machines. More work. I don't think we need all what we had in the 2020 election due to improvements in voting. But this will definitely get us at least in the ballpark, folks. So, that, what do you guys think? Well, let's vote on that motion, and then let's do the next one, which is heading the meeting. So I think I motioned, and I believe Nancy seconded. All in favor of adding 25 machines for now? They are.
25 machines.
To the 93 we already.
To our
To be broken.
17 votes. We don't have them delegated to which location.
Correct. All right. 3-0. All 92. And then, so, let's talk about the next meeting, and I'll say what I'm going to think about for the next meeting. We need to have it next week. My calendar's not quite that.
Yes, we do that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, next week. Pretty much any day but Tuesday works. We have that for Thursday. I'll see.
Oh, okay.
Very good, see? It has to be close to 40 hours.
I like to do it sooner than that. Yes. Do you want that now?
I'd like to have it.
I got a question. Are you okay on the number of meetings?
Thursday, we're having a program, next Thursday, so 9 days.
That's your final day.
That's my understanding. Oh, it is this Thursday? Oh, I thought it was early.
19th.
The 19th, okay. So would we be able to order more then? Gotcha.
So,
It's basically.
I thought they were program even on the election.
I think they're on that program, I really don't even want to this time. I'm not gonna come down. I'm doing it.
That's,
Yeah.
I really think that, not to exceed is a very good idea. That way you can leave it open-ended, and your drop dead date is never, because you authorize an extension.
well, it's always never, because they can program.
Well, that's what I thought, that's what I thought you said. But yeah, that's why I asked drop dead.
So for now, we'll do the 25, and then we'll talk next week when we meet, and we'll figure that out. Any other public comment other than the number of machines? I feel like we could talk about this to death, and we're gonna get some more analysis, but we'll be more confident in our numbers next week.
So you will have another meeting between now and September 30th, right?
Yes, that would be, give or take 7, 8, or 9 days, 6, 7, or 8 days.
So,
Next week, let me phrase it to just next week, maybe not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
the last election, how many people voted? What was the percentage? Where's your?
The primary.
Primary or general? General. What's the-
2022 general was 20,304.
What was the
That's
percentage?
been off your election.
What's the
Oh, so what-
percentage?
what-
Registered voters. On the summary sheet, it shows how many registered voters in Warrick County, and then it shows the percentage of voters. Well, one nice thing is there's a lot of data out there, and most of it's really simple to read. It's beautifully done, as long as they haven't cut it off at the meeting, and that is the state. My concern is still making sure people know where to vote. If we put our heads together, we can think of other ways to get that. What's gonna be our party? They have email address. We
All right. So we're gonna be setting up another meeting. At that meeting, I know I'll be more prepared on the 2016 election statistics and budget, 2020, and then this year's expected statistics and budget. And I think we'll be able to answer the public's questions. With that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion be made to adjourn, seconded by Patty. All in favor, say aye.
And thank you for being great enough to do this job. It's fun, but it's exhausting. It's also addictive. Yeah. Once you start, you can't.
Thank you so much.
On my deathbed.
Do you want to my hair dry?
Oh, I know, right? You don't want it.
But it looks good on you.
Thank you.
And I
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Yes, thank you.